Hi, I'm Lucille Zimmerman, and I'm back again to talk about personality disorders. Still a little croaky, trying to get over this cold. I want to remind everybody, if you get a chance, go back to the first video that's the sort of the overview about what personality disorders are. And there are basically 10 different personality disorders. The way I see them, and most people I do think see them as a developmental wound, and sort of as, like, if you could imagine a child who doesn't grow up and get a set of skills or a way of seeing the world as an adult would. And they're actually very sad because they are pretty pervasive, pretty hard to change. So today I'm going to be talking about narcissistic personality disorder, and some people that you might be thinking of right off the top. I'm going to date myself, but maybe J.R. Ewing from the TV show Dallas. I'm not diagnosing, but maybe you could look at someone like Donald Trump and say, boy, he's a smart guy, but he never fails to tell you about himself. Or Gregory House on the show House, or Gatsby of The Great Gatsby. So what it is it's someone who, well, first of all, I want to just say that we are not giving any of these labels just to give someone a label. We're doing it so that we can see a set of criteria in order to say, wow, that's someone I might want to step out of their trap. And they're actually really sad. So anyway, the history, or the narcissistic personality person would just have an overinflated sense of self. And the thing is that they're floored if you don't see it. So they have this very grandiose and constant need for admiration. They're special. They only enter into relationships if there's something for them to gain. So they may be, like, if you were looking at the antisocial, he might want something tangible like sex or drugs or whatever like that. But a narcissist could want something more abstract, such as power or prestige. And the reason that they're hard to love is it's not only that they're saying, look at me, I'm all that. They're saying, look at me, I'm all that, and you're not. So there's always this devaluation in your interactions with them. Envy is huge, so if they come across someone who has more money or more power than they do, they will devalue. They'll never say, I'm envious of him. They'll say, oh, he got ahead because he was a brown noser, or, he had special perks. I think it's a pretty normal part of development to be narcissistic. If you think of children, they're pretty ego, centered. Self-centered, and most of the time we outgrow that. Unfortunately, a narcissistic personality, NPD, does not. So think about yourself going to a party and that person who talks nonstop about themselves but never stops to ask you about you. And again, I want to remind you that we all probably see ourselves on this scale somewhere, but it doesn't mean that you would be diagnosed with NPD. In order to be diagnosed, you'd have to have lots of criteria and be at the far extreme all the time. And sure, we can all be self-centered and have our days, but it doesn't mean we're NPD. I was thinking about a lady that my daughter was working with, or actually my daughter was working at a restaurant, and they were having a grand opening, and they invited all the local businesses. And my daughter let the lady know that it would be 15 minutes until she was seated, and the whole dinner was paid for and all the free drinks and everything. And the lady started just gouging her, like jabbing her in her chest and saying, do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? And the manager had to swoop over and like come rescue my daughter. So that kind of person, they can be verbally abusive, arrogant, rude. An NPD would not seek out a counselor. If they ever did, and I've had a couple, but they don't tend to stay long in treatment, because that would mean they'd have to admit they had a problem. So if they ever came for counseling or to a lawyer or a doctor, it would always be because of something else, like maybe a difficult person in their life, or maybe you've got to help me with my high blood pressure because so many people need me. It's never that they're the problem, and they're gonna woo you with their power and their prestige. So at first you may be really enamored and think, wow, this person's exciting and powerful and popular and good looking. But don't let them do that, because they're working on your own ego, and they'll never ever notice you. Basically, you're like oxygen. and you're their supply, and they just need constant oxygen. Don't be suckered. If you ever offer advice, he may follow the advice, but only if it's a way for him to manipulate other people. So like if a lawyer said, here's how you can get more money out of your ex-wife, then he might follow your advice. They'll, like if they'd call me, and they've done this, they'll call and they'll want to be seen immediately. They'll say, can you see me now? It's urgent. I'm important. And you'll feel yourself wanting to bend the rules, but don't do it. Let's see. I'm thinking of, sometimes maybe you've seen a speaker and he gets up and instead of talking about whatever it is he's going to talk about, he'll start telling you about all his accomplishments. Others, again, only exist to mirror back them and their greatness. So don't get suckered by them. Again, I want to remind you, with all personality disorders, the way that you know you're dealing with one is, are you feeling crazy? The sad thing is that NPDs usually get worse as they age because they can no longer rely on their good looks or, their power or prestige. So they might use their money to try to keep you in their grips. Here's how I think of an NPD: is this wounded little boy. They act like they have a lot of self-esteem, but usually they have terrible self-esteem. So imagine a little wounded boy, even though it could be women as well. And they've built this house of cards that's sort of what they see themselves as, grandiose. Now, the minute you try to poke that house of cards and say, gosh, do you see how you made that lady feel so bad? Or did you see how you cut that guy off? They can't examine anything faulty in themselves, so it makes the house of cards just flare up bigger and bigger and bigger. So you can never get through to a narcissist quickly. Here's what you cannot do. You cannot be in awe of them or play into their sense of entitlement. You can't believe that his praises of you, because really it's all about him. You can't work harder to win his praise. You can't become dependent on him or expect him to hear any criticism. He won't. You can't expect him to assume responsibilities or allow yourself to be used or to be endlessly giving. I've had situations where the harder I tried, the worse they put me in a box and tried to say, will you just fix me, what's wrong with you? And they try to make you feel inferior, but they're not willing to do the work to look at anything that they're doing. So again, don't cater to their ego. What you can do, be confident, hold an air of detached amusement, set limits and boundaries, disagree, and confront him, but don't expect him to change, because they don't ever change. Thanks. Bye.